just a simple answer.
The most talented teams normally don't win the national championship. Is that the claim being made?
Well, they don't always win it either. You ever seen Clemson?
They're pretty talented when they win the national championship.
They weren't the most talented. They were never the most talented team by any stretch.
Yeah, but they're in that group of talented.
I mean, LSU was extremely talented, but I want to say if you go by recruiting rankings, they weren't the most talented either. There's plenty of teams that won a championship that weren't, well, not plenty, but there's been teams that won the championship that weren't the most talented.
Okay, you're quarreling over a small difference. Most talented might be a little bit too extreme, but they got to be in that top tier of talent. And Michigan isn't in that tier this year.
Well,
they don't. But if they're playing like a top 3 team in the nation, what does it matter?
It doesn't
because they don't have the talent to win it.
Remember, Clemson had the force multiplier at quarterback, though. Clemson had the deal breaker at quarterback. Yes. They had their Cam Newton generational guy, so that's how they closed that deal. So
no, they did. They did.
The recruiting
they had a
rankings
force
aren't
multiplier
perfect,
at quarterback.
and the recruiting rankings aren't perfect. So some of those Clemson great defenses, some of those guys weren't the highest recruited guys.
Well, no, Clemson routinely did not recruit in the top 5 recruiting classes. A lot of those classes were 8, 10, 12.
Yeah, they were in that range.
Yeah, the Michigan range. But here's the thing, man. So, Darrell, let's have an agreement here. If Michigan goes on to win the Natty this year,
I got to take a call.
That means Jim Harbaugh will have one of the most impressive championships by your standards.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need to hear. we can leave it at that.
By the way, that the least talented team to win the national championship, according to 24/7 Sports, was the 2016 Clemson team, who was the 9th most talented team in the country. Michigan is 14th this year.
Darrell,
that means Harbaugh's. I mean, he might be the best developer in football. Then,
Darrell, I thought it was 2010 Auburn with Newton. That was a very, very low.
You're looking at blue chip ratio. I'm looking at team total composite.
Okay,
2 different stats.
Okay, that wasn't a very talented team, though. I will say 2010 Auburn after Cam Newton. Talk about
a and that's also before the playoff era. I'm talking about playoff era onward. So 2014 to now.
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't.
No, I like this narrative because if Michigan does do it, like Harbaugh's going to have one of the greatest chips we've ever seen. By your standards, so I kind of like this direction.
I think it's pretty reasonable to figure this out. That, like Darrell says, you've got to have elite talent to win a national championship, but at the same time, the recruiting rankings aren't perfect.
No, so
you could have the 7th class in the nation, and it could actually turn out, if we re-ranked it, to be number 3. So I think the combination of that, some recruiting evaluation misses on those Clemson classes, combined with what David's talking about, 2 generational quarterbacks, gives you a team that wins a national championship that also had a few breaks during the season that put them in a position to win the national championship when maybe they wouldn't have normally made the playoffs. Like, there were a few gifts in there that helped catapulted. Now, Clemson, once they got to the playoff, they certainly got the job done. But man, that 2016 season, they had 2 games that were handed to them in some ways.
Yeah, the 18 team was more talented, Mark.
Yes.
I would separate out the 16 and 18 Clemson teams, because that 18 Clemson team with Lawrence and a bunch of weapons and a really good D line, I think was far more loaded with NFL talent than the 16 team, where I think Watson just kind of carried that team, not unlike Cam Newton circa 2010 a little bit.
Hey,
I would agree.
The real quick question for you, bro. You there?
I'm here. You can speak.
Okay, cool. So I get the whole recruiting ranking things, right? So, Michigan returns pretty much the entire team they had last year. You don't think in a year like this year, where you have a lot of question marks across the college football landscape, all the powerhouses, QB question marks, there's O-line question marks, there's a lot of question marks. Michigan is the only real proven team coming back in terms of question marks. I'm not talking about in terms of winning a championship, but in terms of question marks. That team that was so dominant last year in Michigan outside of really one game, you don't think that team, which is now deeper this year, has a chance to win a championship? Make that make sense.
I said they have a 1% chance, so they do have a
That's
chance.
correct. That's wild.
I'm saying there's a chance, to quote a famous movie.
1%, my guy.
Yeah, 1%.
Where do you have Michigan ranked?
I think where they're ranked now versus where they're going to end up are two different things.
Where do you think they should be? Is what I'm asking.
Right now, or at the end of the season?
The real? Is that imagine the question, man? Where
Right
in
now,
terms of
they need to be two.
in terms of
They should
teams
be
you
number
think
two right now.
No, I'm saying in terms of teams you think are the best in the country. I'm just asking your opinion. What teams do you think? Where's Michigan at in that conversation? In your opinion, not in terms of
Well, I
what.
would put them below your tier 1 teams right now. I would put them in a tier with Utah, Penn State, Oklahoma previously, those type of teams. Teams that can make it there but haven't proven anything once they got there.
Okay, I get so none of those teams will win a championship, but you're trying to tell me you watch Michigan and you think they're in the same category as Utah?
In terms of winning a national championships, yes. Sorry.
Well, hold on. I'm talking about in terms of how good the team is.
I mean, they're probably at the top of the tier that I don't think has a realistic chance to win the national championship. But they're a great team. There's just very few teams who can win the national championship.
Hold on.
It really doesn't make any sense, the real.
There's probably like 4 teams that can win it. Michigan's 5th on the list. I mean, you've got to put your Georgias, your Alabamas, your Ohio States above them.
Okay, hold on.
No.
Real quick. Let's put it right there. So Ohio State can win a national championship, but Michigan can't, even though Michigan beats the crap out of them the past 2 years.
You do understand the logic here. Go Blue. You do get it, right?
All-time wins.
Well, I get it's coming from a blue chip 247 point of view, but that look, this is where I'll side with the real, because I'm somewhere in the middle, because I don't believe either one of you are completely wrong or completely right, but I believe where DeReal's coming from, and I can understand this point, is that number one, he's a believer in the recruiting rankings, and the national championship run during the playoff has backed that up, that you cannot recruit 12th in the nation and win national championship. Okay. The other part in that is that, yes, Michigan the last 2 seasons has taken care of Ohio State, and this past year also Penn State, who was a near elite or close to or tier 2 team, I believe, in DeReal's perspective on things. But Michigan has yet to step out of the conference and beat anyone any good. They have yet to do that. And until they do that, I think guys like DeReal are not going to be convinced until they go out of conference and win a play. Or if they would have scheduled somebody like, if they had Texas on the schedule this year, or if they had Clemson on the schedule, or if they had LSU on the schedule and they won that game, or they won a playoff game, then I think DeReal would be more convinced. I'm guessing. Okay, yeah. Okay, how about this? I'll meet you in the middle here. I agree, and I think that's going to affect Michigan next year, the way the recruiting has been. I think that's going to affect them because I think they're going to go to more of a rebuild. But I take it on a case-to-case basis. So these players that have been recruited have proven that they can play at an elite level. Regardless of what they've recruited, the players they have recruited, they've developed them into an elite level team. So will that affect them next year? Probably. Will that affect them the year after that? Probably. I agree. This team is an outlier in terms of recruiting rankings. That's what I'm saying. So you could look at the recruiting rankings, but this team has been developed into an elite level team. This is not a perfect correlation, but if there was an NFL team that had the best record in the league 2 consecutive years, but they lost the first playoff game, what would you think? In the NFL? Yeah. They went 15-2, 2 consecutive years, but they lost the first playoff game. One of them lost by 4 scores. The other one, they lost, 51-45. I mean, if it's the NFL, I feel like any team's really got a chance. Yeah, I mean, it's any given Sunday, so that's a little hard to. It's not a perfect correlation, but it is in terms of the results of what's happened. And I think there are certain people, I don't think DeReal's alone in this. If we had enough SEC fans that would come in and say, yeah, I'd like to see Michigan do something outside the conference. Oh yeah, I agree. But to say that they can't do it and it's a 1% chance is where he misses me. Like, so for example, like that Georgia team, right? Cade, we had Cade at quarterback. We had just the year before. I mean, a lot of terms, but the main point was Cade was at quarterback. It was a bad matchup with Georgia. Generational defense. That's the first year. The second year, I mean, most people have agreed. I think Mark, you've even said this, that if Michigan played that game 10 times, they probably win 8 or 9 times. So it's like we could look at these past 2 years and like say, oh, they haven't won the past 2 years, so now they got a 1% chance to win it this following year. But I just think that's naive thinking. That's just not that. I mean, that's just how I look at it. I don't think you could really. I don't think it's that simple. I don't think it's that black and white.
So, Mark, the stat I'm using is 24/7 team total composite
Sure.
rankings. Okay, since the playoffs have began, no team below ninth has won the national championship. Michigan is currently 14th on the list. Okay, so it's not like they're just right on the edge and could be a complete outlier of outliers. No, they're below teams like Miami, Oklahoma, USC. And to put it in perspective, okay, the gap between Michigan and Georgia is 127 points. Okay, the gap from between Missouri and Michigan is less than that.
You're making it sound like Harbaugh's like one of the greatest coaches we've ever seen, then, bro. Like what he's doing
I
it
think
is
he's a
amazing.
great coach.
Like that,
I just
like,
don't think that they have enough to win the national championship this year. If
hold on, hold
Michigan's
on.
goal is to
Darrell,
make
this is
the
where you.
playoff, win the Big Ten, they can do that. I'm a firm believer in that. But to win the national championship is just one step too far for me. That's all
Hey,
I'm saying.
Darrell, where Penn State? Darrell, where Penn State ranked on that list?
13th, one spot ahead of Michigan.
Where's Ohio State ranked?
3.
So they've shown 2 years in the past 2 years, and if they do it again this year, that'd be 3 years in a row that they've proven that they can compete with teams that recruit better than them. Yes or no?
In a
So
regular
that's two
season,
teams. Hold on,
yes.
that's two teams in the
However,
regular season.
I believe the playoffs is a completely different animal. That's why we see all these blowouts and stuff like that. I believe the playoffs, the talent rises to the top. And I think the playoffs is the talent rising to the top is why Michigan gets exposed in the playoffs.
I mean, okay. First of all, they've really been exposed once. The second year, I wouldn't even call that being exposed. Like Darrell, do you really think if they
You
lined up
lost to
10? Hold on.
TCU.
Darrell, do you really think if they lined up 10 times that Michigan loses that or doesn't win that game eight or 9 out of those 10 times?
That doesn't matter. You lost to them 1 out of 1 time. You won
understand
0%
that, Darrell.
of games against TCU in the playoff.
Darrell, anyone could lose a game. Anyone could lose a game. To say that Michigan with this current roster can't compete with the best teams is just false.
I didn't say they can't compete. I gave them a 1% chance to win 2 games.
1%.
That means there's 1 in 100 chances they got to win it.
It does sound ridiculous, the percentage. I'm more in the 7 or 8% range, and that's just I'm just throwing darts. But again, I think a lot of people would be more convinced if they either scheduled difficult non-conference games to be able to play that and show that, or they went to the playoff and won a game.
Yeah, like this is my problem. Like you could recruit, like let's say you recruited the number 1 class, number 2 class every other year, right? And then, but during the season, you didn't play like that, right? I mean, would you say that team could compete for a championship still?
No, I think it's almost like.
I mean, it's inconsistent logic.
The talent doesn't guarantee that it's going to be coached up and the schemes and the adjustments and everything done so that they can win, i.e. Texas. But you have to have the talent to win. You can't.
I agree that.
And win a national championship.
No, I agree that. What I'm saying is if playoffs prove if you have to win a game in the playoff to prove that you can compete, even though you're dominant the whole season, you beat teams that do recruit at the level Darrell's talking about. You beat them consistently. It's just you haven't beat them in the playoffs yet. You've only been there twice. But that same logic, I can reverse it and say teams that do recruit that high, like Georgia for a while, right? Georgia for a while, I mean, they recruited high, but they couldn't win. I mean, they did. I guess they beat Oklahoma, but I mean, it really depends on the matchup. Like if Michigan matched up with a USC or a TCU again this year, I mean, I would take them to win that game because those teams aren't in a Georgia level. I mean, it's too black and white thinking.
Even when Georgia was falling short, they showed that they were capable of competing with anyone.
How is Michigan hasn't? That's what I understand.
Michigan's not playing an Alabama team in the 2017 championship game in overtime. That's
okay,
a
but they're
completely different level of playoff game. What Alabama and Georgia did in 2017, playing against each other in an overtime game, is not playing TCU.
No, I agree with that. Here's I guess this is what I'm getting at. Let's say Michigan matched up with USC. Darrell, where is USC ranked recruiting wise?
8th.
So if Michigan, which they've proven they could beat a team in that category, so they could beat them in the first round, right? So just because they beat USC in the first round, are you going to now believe that they could compete in the playoffs, even though USC isn't even in that category that you're talking about?
It would be. They would have to beat an Alabama, Georgia level team probably to win the national championship. There's a difference between winning one playoff game and winning the national championship. You understand that, right?
Okay, so see how we moved the goalpost again? We went from winning a playoff game to now, okay, they do win a playoff game against a USC or that caliber team. Now let's move the goalpost. Now they got to win the whole thing. Like,
that's what I've said. I've said Michigan has had a 1% chance to win the national championship. I haven't said Michigan has a 1% chance to win a playoff game.
What's Ohio State's chance?
To what? Win a playoff game or the national championship?
What percentage you giving to win? I'm talking about this year. I'm not talking about in general. I'm just talking about this year. What percentage you giving them?
To win the national championship or a playoff game?
No, to win the
national championship, I'd give them like a 20%.
See, that's where you lose me, bro. That's where you lose me, bro.